Hey everybody. Been a little while, huh? Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new episode of Discovering Doctor Who after it's probably like 2 months at this point after like a 2 month hiatus. The show is back and I am back to doing these videos. Thank you all very much for sticking around. And for those of you that have come on since I took my break, last I checked, there's almost 440 subscribers now, which is it's up since I just, announced my review or announced my video about me coming back. So that's awesome and thank you all very much. But let's get right into this. Today's episodes are Human Nature and the Family of Blood. And I'll get quickly into my favorite parts of these episodes. But the way it started out was really interesting because it was very much one of those, we're right in the middle of something going on, but we don't know what it is. When I started watching the episode Human Nature, I almost actually kind of thought that maybe I had accidentally missed an episode, or maybe there was a mini-sode that took place in between that I should have watched. So that sort of, set me off a little bit. Not set me off, but it sort of like confused me a little bit at first. But the way that the two episodes progressed was just, it was really good. And as I said before, let's get right into my favorite parts of these episodes. And let me tell you, there are quite a few. The first of which is actually the Doctor as a human. And we find out later how that happens in the episode, of course, but just the Doctor completely changing his DNA, like who he is, to become a full human, losing all of his memories and placing them into that little pocket watch. But despite that, the memories still come through in dreams, which I guess this sort of goes along with him being the human. But the journal, the way that they did the journal was just awesome. The way it had sketches of his old incarnations from the classic series, drawings of some of his old enemies and, well, technically present enemies. I really like that aspect, the journal. And just the way that the Doctor was as John Smith. His usual moniker, I guess. But that was just, I really enjoyed that aspect. And just the way that, even who he was as a human, he was still the Doctor, but in a more, it was the Doctor if he, actually was a human, in just a regular TV show almost. And I don't know, I really like that. And he even has, like, John Smith himself has this really interesting character arc throughout the two episodes. And for them, for the writers to be able to do that in just two episodes with this character that is already pre-established, he's the one that the show's friggin' based on. I just thought it was really well done. Now, my second favorite part of these episodes was Little Tim, the boy with psychic powers, who's actually, and I found this interesting, he's actually played by Thomas Sangster, aka Ferb, or the voice of Ferb, from the cartoon show Phineas and Ferb on Disney. I thought that was kind of cool. But just throughout, I really liked his character from beginning to end, just noticing his psychic powers and what happens there, and the connection he gets with the stopwatch that contains the Doctor's consciousness, all the way to the end when we see him as an old man. Well, not the same person, of course, but the character when he's grown old at the end. It was just, I really, really liked him as a character as well. Excuse me. Now, my third favorite part of these episodes was Jessica Hynes, aka Yvonne from Shaun of the Dead, aka a bunch of other characters from stuff Simon Pegg has been in. That's just me personally. I know she's been in other stuff, but from my personal experience, I've seen her in stuff with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. So their kind of stuff. But her as Joan Redfern, she was just a very interesting character and one that I really enjoyed throughout both episodes. She portrayed the character in that time, in the time it took place, very well. And at the end, it was heartbreaking to see how they had to split up. And I'll actually touch on that a little bit more going forward as to like some of my favorite aspects of this. But just her as a character, and honestly wanting to see more of her, wanting her to come along for the ride, but rejecting the offer in the end. It was just, I really liked her as a character, and again, just Jessica Hynes herself is a great actress, and I really enjoyed her in this role. Now, my fourth favorite part of these episodes was the family of blood themselves. They were just very menacing. It kind of corny at times, kind of strange, but overall, just the way that they were portrayed throughout, it was just very menacing and very creepy. And the way that they actually kill people, it's easily one of the most, like, not necessarily brutal, but just bam, you're gone. And that's something that I honestly expected from, you know, some of the older enemies of the Doctor, like, you know, the Daleks, or the Cybermen, like, you know, with the Cybermen, delete. And if you watch one of my old episodes, one of my things was I kind of wish that, you know, when they delete someone, they don't just, oh, I'm dead. They actually disappear, which is what actually happened with the guns that the Family of Blood were using. That was just, I mean, they were intimidating enough just because of the way that the actors were portraying them. I found them to be very interesting and powerful performances. But when you know, they just walk up, bam, complete disintegration, I was just like, oh! It was, like I said, it was freaky, but really good. I really liked that element of both the characters and their weapons, I guess is the right way to put it. But I really liked that element of these two episodes. Now, my fifth favorite part of these episodes was the time period it took place in, 1913. And I just thought it was really interesting because it took place right before, you know, obviously World War I, or what turned into World War I. And I don't know, it was just very... It took some time to get used to, honestly, just because of the way people were treating Martha. I mean, obviously, you know, back then, black people weren't treated very well. But even, like, you know, other than just Martha, it's like, you know, the servants, they weren't treated very well. But it's just like the way that they talked to Martha and the way they talked to people that were under them was just very strange. And, like, the way the Doctor talked to Martha even. It's like, it was very weird to go from this, like, you know, who he usually is to this man in 1913 that basically just sees her as a servant. Apparently, like, according to the story that was made up, one that had been with her for a long time, so they had that personal connection in his mind. But it was just the way that everyone treated her, the way that people were treated in general, the way adults treated these young boys, you know, preparing them for a war without, you know, and talking about, you know, the glory of battle without even really knowing what was going to be coming up soon. It was just very interesting. And again, another part of these episodes I just really liked. Now, the sixth favorite part of this episode was Martha Jones herself. And, you know, you all have known, it's like, you know, I like to fawn over Martha, and I thought she's done really well in other episodes before. But I feel like in these two episodes, the way she was portrayed and just the character herself was really strong and really well done. It's like, you know, she maintained her independence while going with the flow, knowing that what was going on would only be temporary for them. So she, she put up with what she had to put up with in that time period. But also, when things just came to a head, she took charge. Like, she told the doctor, or well, rather John Smith, what to do. She took charge and did what needed to be done in order to make people safe, or in order to stop the family of blood, albeit, temporarily at the time. It was just really good, and I like I said, I already liked Martha Jones as a character to begin with, but I gained some complete new respect for her as a character with these 2 episodes. Now, my 7th favorite part of these episodes was John Smith's future, or rather, Joan Redfern and John Smith's future, the flash forward just before he makes that decision to change back into the Doctor. I just really... That's my dog coming down the stairs. It was, it was sad, and it was very emotional to see the way John Smith was reacting to the idea of the Doctor's personality, what he would have to change back to, the fact that he would essentially be dying because he would cease to exist as John Smith. And that flash forward, just, seeing the future that they would have, I guess maybe it didn't hit me like as powerfully as it might have some, especially when this episode first came out. But it was just a really emotional and powerful segment that just kind of left you a little bit exhausted when it was said and done, because on one hand, I really want the Doctor to come back, obviously, because the show is Doctor Who. But at the same time, it's like, well, why can't... Isn't there a way that John Smith could continue on? Which is, again, why I was sad to see, Joan Redfern reject his offer to go with him, because I thought that as 2 characters that they would develop very well over time. Of course, that would take away from Martha Jones, who's obviously the main companion for this season. But I just, again, it was just a very powerful segment that I thought, was just really well done and very, very strong emotionally. Now, the 8th and final favorite part of these episodes was the Doctor's wrath. And I can't remember the exact quote from Son of Mine of the Family of Blood, but just the way he described it as, the Doctor's wrath was the worst part of what came upon them after, all was said and done with what they were doing. He never raised his voice, but he punished them in ways that he didn't have to raise his voice because they were that bad. And he actually, by changing who he was and trying to hide from them temporarily, he was actually showing mercy upon them. But they wouldn't accept that mercy. They wouldn't just move on. So in the end, he had to take his wrath upon them. And that was just... The end of that episode is just so well done. I really like that. Now, as you can tell, I have a lot of good things to say about these episodes. And honest to God, it's like, I have to say these are probably some of the best 2 episodes of Doctor Who I've seen so far. Not to mention this season. But I did have one issue with it. And honestly, overall, it's rather minor, but it was one thing in the first episode, Human Nature, that really did just bother me. And my issue, or my annoyance with that episode, was the character Baines before being possessed or becoming Son of Mine in the Family of Blood. I don't know if it was the actor, or if he was supposed to be sort of this dim-witted, kind of flat character. I don't know, but before he actually became possessed, the character just wasn't done well at all. I didn't find him to be interesting. I didn't find anything... it seemed like the actor wasn't trying before being possessed, basically. But after being possessed, after becoming Son of Mine, he was excellent. Like, he is easily, among, like, a group of rather foreboding, dark-looking characters, he just really sold the son of mine role. So that was just a great part of it. And I would expect that, again, to me it just seemed that he wasn't trying when he was just Baines. So, again, that's a very minor issue with these episodes, but it was one all the same, and something that almost kind of took me out of the episode at first, but luckily everything else made up for it. And after checking my notes, I actually lied. I do have the quote from Son of Mine, or yes, the quote at the end of the episode having to do with the Doctor's wrath. And there's actually going to be 2 favorite quotes of this episode. That is one of them. And the quote is this: "He never raised his voice. That was the worst thing. The fury of the Time Lord. And when we discovered why this Doctor who had fought with gods and demons, why he had run away from us and hidden, he was being kind." Even just reading that right now, it gives me chills, because even without, you don't even have to have the imagery really, but just the images of what's going on while that quote is being read, it's just, it sends chills up your spine, and just the idea of really who the Doctor is again, and what he can do when you push him over the line, basically. Now, that's the first favorite quote of this episode. The second one is actually a quote from Joan Redfern. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was getting her name right, but Joan Redfern, at the end of the episode, when she's essentially rejecting the Doctor's offer to go along. And it was, I would say, probably the most powerful thing said in both episodes. And like I said, I really like both, but what she said was this: "Answer me this, just one question, that's all. If the Doctor had never visited us, if he'd never chosen this place on a whim, would anybody here have died?" And that, again, I'm getting chills just reading that. But that's, very true. I mean, there were enough horrible things coming up in the near future for them, but by going there in general, by hiding from these people, trying to show mercy to the family of blood, he was responsible for however many deaths occurred in this episode, and we don't even see many of them. There's an entire segment where the family is just bombing a town, and who knows how many people actually died when that was occurring. It's like, we don't know, but it's like the deaths that we saw on screen by themselves had to have been at least like easily over 5, maybe not quite 10, but I mean, it was pretty high all the same. So the body count, it's blood on the Doctor's hands, and it's just, like I said, it's just a very powerful quote, and right next to what Son of Mine said at the end, it was just really, really powerful. Now, between these 2 episodes, there wasn't really anything that at least I could see at first that was sort of a connection to the overall story arc, really. It seemed like two episodes that were sort of a standalone story. But upon rewatching, since I took such a long break, there was one thing that stuck out to me upon rewatch that really raised this question in my mind, and it's this. The kids are singing about the Master. I believe it's at the end, but especially at the beginning when we first see the school. And it's like we hear this little chorus of the kids singing about the Master and being a pilgrim. And my question is this: is that the old Doctor Who villain that they're singing about? Or is it something completely unrelated? Now, those of you that have watched ahead, those of you that have seen more of the show and have seen the old, or rather the classic episodes, fill me in on that, because it's, I mean, unless it's a spoiler for what's coming up, it's just, I was trying to get a grasp there, because I know I've heard the Master before. I know that he's also a Time Lord. Whether or not he still is alive in the new series, I kind of assume he is, because that's who I'm guessing the big, I can't remember his name now, but basically the big name back in back in the present time. Sorry everybody, it's been a while since I've been watching, so I'm really not very up to date on the names mentally. But it's like, is that who they're singing about? Does that have some sort of connection to the Doctor's the Master? And that's just all, that's my big question there. But again, I just want to say, everyone, thank you very much for sticking around. Thank you for all the comments you've left, all the support. You have been amazing, and I'm going to do my best to get more of these episodes out to you very soon. And my main goal in the past was to try and get up to date on this before the new season started. Obviously, that's not going to happen right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to take my time. I might watch ahead and actually get caught up with the show so that I can watch the new episodes as they go along. Or I may just watch them when I get caught up to that point. I still don't know at this point what I'm going to do. But, that's just for who knows what the future holds. But everyone, thank you very much. And I'll see you next time for the next episode, which is called...
Don't blink. Don't even blink. Blink and you're dead. They are fast, faster than you could believe. Don't turn your back. Don't look away, and don't blink.